Alright, this is lesson 1.2 of comparing and scaling. We are looking at some more comparison statements this time, similar comparison statements to lesson 1.1, but a little trickier, more in depth. Same objectives, know how to write and analyze comparison statements, so we are going to analyze some comparison statements, do a little bit of writing, not as much as the writing. So let's jump right into it. First, before we learn about the comparison statements, we need to talk about a new idea, something called part to part and part to whole. Two different ways to write a ratio. One way is part to part, the other way is part to whole. Let's look at some examples of what this means. Number one, 5 cats, 3 dogs. This is an example of part to part because cats are not dogs and dogs are not cats. Neither one goes into the other category. Number two, 12 boys and 25 kids. This is an example of part to whole because boys are kids. Not all kids are boys, but boys are included in the kids. Therefore, kids is the whole group. Boys is only part of the group. Number three, 10 apples to 13 oranges. This one is part to part because apples are not oranges. Oranges are not apples. They are entirely separate. Number 4, 2 red crayons to 15 crayons. This is part to whole because all red crayons are crayons, but not all crayons are red. Red crayons goes inside crayons. So, part to part, part to whole, important concept to understand. Let's jump right into the rest. A survey was taken of 150 students asking what their favorite type of entertainment was. Of the 150 students, 100 chose TV, 50 chose radio. Well, it gives us the parts and the wholes of this one. 150 students is the total, the whole. TV is a part, and radio is a part. That should say whole, not hote. It's not even a word. Whole. There we go. So we have our two parts, we have the whole. So when it asks us to write something, we will know which one to use. A, which option won and by how much? Well, we see that TV won by how much? Well, 100 chose TV. 50 chose radio, subtract and we get 50. So TV won by 50 votes. That's the one that won, and that's by how much. B, which statements below are accurate? Circle them after testing their correctness. So, each statement may or may not be correct, so let's try and write them given the information and given what it's asking for. Number 1, 1/3 of the students prefer radio to television. Of the students means it is part to whole. So our fraction is over 150 students prefer radio to television. Radio goes on top. 50 radio, 150 students. Divide top and bottom by 50. We get 1/3, which is right here. 1/3, therefore it's correct. Number 2. Students prefer television to radio by a ratio of 2 to 1. So let's see, 2 to 1. Television to radio. Well, it's 100 in TV, 50 radio, divide by 50, divide by 50. I get 2 TV to 1 radio. 2 to 1. That works. Number 3, the ratio of students who prefer radio to television is 1 to 2. Now, the last one was TV to radio, therefore it's 2 to 1. This one is radio to TV, therefore it's 1 to 2. That's okay. If you swap the words around, you have to swap the numbers around. Number 4, the number of students who prefer television is 50 more than the number of students who prefer radio. Well, that's exactly what we said up here. Therefore, that's true. Number 5, the number of students who prefer television is 2 times the number who prefer radio. Well, let's see. Radio is 50 times 2 is 100, so therefore that is correct. Twice as many people chose TV instead of radio. 6. 50% of the students prefer radio to television. Well, this is the same exact statement as number 1, except for the number is swapped. Instead of a fraction, we have a percent. So if this is correct, then that fraction should turn into 50%. 1/3 is 33%. So no, that does not work. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 work, 6 does not. Let's move on. Which correct statement makes radio sound like the winner? Why do you think so? Let's take a look at the statements. Statement number 1, 1/3 of the students prefer radio to television. Doesn't really talk about radio too much, it just says it lost. 2, students prefer television to radio by a ratio of 2 to 1. No. 3, the ratio of students who prefer radio to television is 1 to 2. So that one sounds like it might work because it talks about radio first. So, which correct statement makes radio sound like the winner? Statement, what was that, number 3? Number 3. Because radio is talked about first. So it sounds like it's given priority. D, which correct statement makes television sound like the winner? Why do you think so? Well, they all say that TV won, except for maybe one of them says that it won by more than the others. 1/3 of the students prefer radio to television. No, doesn't really sound like much to me. 2 to 1, that's not much of a difference. 1 to 2, not much of a difference. 50 more, that could be a lot. Unless the numbers are high, 50 more might not be much. The number of students who prefer television is 2 times the number who prefer radio. 2 times bigger sounds like a lot. So I'm going to choose statement number 5 because 2 times sounds like a lot. Sounds like a lot more than the others anyways. Alright, let's see. Practice problems. Carlos records the amount of time he spent on each of the activities last weekend in the table below. So he made this nice table talking about his activities and number of hours spent. Here's a nice picture of Carlos doing the dishes. Should look like what you're doing the dishes to at home, hopefully. So his activities, we have sleeping, eating, recreation, probably like playing video games or sports, talking on the phone, watching television, doing chores or other homework, and other. Then we have 18, 2.5, 8, 2, 6, 2, 9.5. Alright. Decide if each statement is an accurate description of how Carlos spent his time that weekend. Circle the ones that are accurate. So same exact thing we just did in the lesson with some more practice. So, A, he spent 1/6 of his time watching TV. Of his time means we are going to set up a part to whole fraction. So part to whole means we need to know the total number of hours. So I'm going to add them all up. 18, 2.5. Now, notice I have a decimal in one, so I'm going to add decimals to all of them. 8.0, 2.0, 6.0, 2.0, 9.5. Add them all up. Carry the 1. 9, 10, 11, 19, 21, 27, 29, 38. Carry the 3. 4. 48 hours, which is 2 days, so that makes sense. So we know the fraction is over 48. Watching TV is 6. I can simplify this because it's not 1/6 yet. Divide by 6, divide by 6, I get 1 over 8. That is not 1/6. B. The ratio of hours spent watching TV to hours spent doing chores or other homework is 3 to 1. So let's see, TV is 6. And chores and other homework is 2. Simplify, divide by 2, divide by 2, I get 3 TV to 1 chores. 3 to 1, that works. C, recreation, talking on the phone, and watching TV took about 33% of his time, 1/3 of his time. Recreation is 8, plus talking on the phone is 2, plus watching TV is 6, that equals 16. So 16 over 48, divide top and bottom by 4. I get 4 over 12, divide top and bottom by 4. I get 1/3, which we know is 33% from the previous slide. So there we go. D, time spent doing chores or homework was only 20% of the time spent watching television. Let's see. Chores and homework compared to TV. Chores and homework is 2. TV is 6. Well, we know 2 to 6 simplifies by 2 down to 1/3. 1/3 is 33%, not 20%. E, sleeping, eating, and other activities took up 12 more hours than all of our activities behind. So 18, 2.5, 9.5, add all those up. I get 30. See what the rest adds up to. 8 plus 2 plus 6. Is that it? Yep. 8 plus 2 plus 6 is... Oh wait, I missed one. Plus 2 is 18. 30 is 12 more than 18, so that one works. Okay, let's go back over the lesson, make sure we answered everything completely and correctly. So this is lesson 1.2 of comparing and scaling, looking at more comparisons. We learned the difference between part to part and part to whole. Make sure you remember that. We analyzed the correctness of some statements given the information from a survey. And we compared those statements, figure out which one was the most biased. And then we analyzed more statements for their correctness given a table. So this is the end of lesson 1.2 in comparing and scaling. Up next is lesson 2.1 in comparing and scaling.